All right, we are officially live and officially recording. Good morning, unicorns. Thanks for being here with us this morning, spending your Saturday morning with us, or afternoon if you're somewhere else and not California with us. If I just wanted to welcome you guys, if this is the first Faith Talks that you've sat in on, welcome. And I just want to share the intent with you guys behind these talks and just really give me and Paige's intent and purpose with our talk today. But the Faith Talk series actually came from Spirit guided me again and told me do this, and I was like, okay. So kind of like what Faith is going to talk about, or Paige is going to talk about, faith and surrender today is, I've been practicing that a lot and seeing just what comes from walking in faith and just surrendering and taking those next right steps. And these talks came out of that, which is really awesome because my intent this year personally is to heal myself in every area that is showing up for me. And then in that, teaching other people how that's helping me, how I'm being healed so that they can take their steps in faith and healing. And so my mission this year is just to heal all the people in all the ways, like with all the modalities, whoever I can reach, whatever I can do, just throw all the things at all the people and just heal, be healed. So it's really rad because in this series, like for me, the Faith Talks was really just people sharing their stories of how they've overcome things in faith or come to faith in certain circumstances or whatever their topic is. And the underlying thread in all of it is healing in some capacity, in whether it's mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically. The underlying tone has been healing. And it's just really been, it gives me chills right now talking about it because that was my intent in general in my own personal mission, and to see Spirit really working through that and then reaching a whole bunch of other people has been amazing. So it's cool too because if you guys don't know Paige, I am super blessed to have her in my life, and it's really awesome to look back and see how we were connected in network marketing, and really just a mutual friend said, you need to know Paige. Paige, meet Monique, Monique, meet Paige. And it was like in a comment on a thread and connected us that way. So I sent her a friend request, and we kind of just, said hey or whatever. And that was it. I was following her for a while. She's beautiful. I loved it. I love her family life. Like just followed Paige for a little bit. And then we ended up connecting through our businesses and kind of meeting up that way. And I just love her vibe, just loved her personally, and what she does and what she stands for. You just get good feelings from people. And so after that, it kind of we were just friends, and that was it. But I think for me, what I love about what she's going to talk to you guys about today in faith and surrender is her story, which I don't even know the whole thing. It's going to be cool for me to hear, but because she has surrendered in faith in her journey, it has directly impacted me, which I'm sure many of you watching this will say the same thing. But I am here doing this interview now and all this series of interviews and in my business because Paige chose to surrender in faith. And it's a really awesome thing to see how you can just surrendering, just saying, God, show me the next steps, or just taking those next right steps in faith can impact many lives and touch many people in ways that you will never, ever know. So I'm grateful that you're here. Welcome to the group. Thank you for wanting to share your story and to help others. So tell your side. That was my side of you.
Well, thank you for having me. I mean, it's awesome to hear that side of it because you never really, a lot of times you don't get to hear how you impact the lives of others. You just kind of blindly walk, and it's cool to know that I do have an impact in the world. That's and I think it's funny. Anybody that knows me and is like, you're talking on surrender, they're probably dying laughing because this is not my default personality. Is not surrender. I am more square peg, round hole. Like I'm gonna force it through. I'll get all the signs in the world that I need to go a different direction. But I am the fall down 9 times, get up 10. Like persistent, never quit. Like that is my default. I'm a Capricorn, and so that is how I function.
With you, sister.
And it led me down a path where I experienced a lot of heartache because of it. And had I wised up sooner to this whole concept of surrender, I think I would have probably not have been as hard on myself for a very long time. But I also, you know, for me, it's a daily practice. I mean, if you go over to Facebook, this is my daily practice with surrender. Go over to Facebook, since we're on Facebook. And I don't know about you guys, but I can't tell you how many times a day I see something and I have like, I need to become a keyboard warrior right now. And I even type it out and I go, no, I have learned that me being a keyboard warrior doesn't change anything. Nobody changes their mind from Facebook usually. So breathe, let it go, send it to the universe, belly. So that's like my daily practice with surrender. Usually on Facebook, like let that go. And you know, when you look out there, it's not a really popular message. Surrender is not popular.
No. Well, I think it's hard. People don't.
Well, it has a really bad connotation to it too, because surrender is almost synonymous with quitting.
Yeah, that, and I also think that it's synonymous with religion. For some reason, people get that in their head too, and it's like, surrender to who or what, you know what I mean? And so then they shut down. It's like, it does have so many different takes on it. And so people are just like, forget it.
Yeah. And it's not popular. I mean, the biggest, I would say one of the things that's out there for me that like really spikes up my nervous system that deals with surrender is the whole, winners never quit and quitters never win.
Yeah.
That one right there. That one's really effective because it makes people feel bad.
Yeah.
You know, nobody wants to be a quitter. Nobody wants to be a loser. And so I remember that one particular for me kept me doing things longer than I needed to. You know, and I kept in relationships longer. I kept in businesses longer. I kept in a lot of things longer than I should have. When all the signs were there, like your path is changing, I wasn't a quitter. And
I'm the same way.
Right?
Seriously, I'm the same way. Yes. I mean, everything you're saying, I'm like, that's me. That's totally me. I'm like having flashbacks of when that has been me.
Right. Yeah. Right. Such a different perspective now. I mean, I've really tried to put it into practice over the past, I mean, it's pretty recent, like past year and a half is when I started to wise up to, okay, maybe there is I don't know better, but there's a different way that might suit me better. And, you know, it happens all the time. You know, I was with my friend Vanessa and we're putting together a couple of Reiki classes. And there was just this one date that like, it was really clunky. Like the venue didn't have all the times right. And like, everything was like really it wasn't as smooth as the other ones we've done. Right. And, I remember thinking to myself, like, I'm going to make it works type of person. Venue can't do it. Okay, let's do my house. I'll solve it. I'll fix it. We'll do my house. It'll be fine. And then I'm like jumping through all these hoops. And then later on in the day, I'm like, I need to pause, take a step back. And if I'm forcing this so much to make it work, this is not the right day. So, you know, I text her, hey, I think we need to table this and move it to a different day and like see if the energy behind that is different. And I wouldn't have done that a couple of years ago. I would have like forced it through. Or I had a project I was working with somebody. This was a really interesting experience because we were both committed. We're like, yeah, we're going to do this project together. This was a while back. And kind of halfway through, I started to get this feeling like, ooh, I don't know if this is the project I'm supposed to do. I don't know if it's the person I'm supposed to work with, but something is feeling like, nope, this isn't it. But I also didn't know how to back out. And so I'm like, oh shoot. And I'm like praying or whatever you want to call that. I'm not hugely religious. So y'all might say God. I'm probably going to sub in either spirit or universe, but you could use higher self. You could use intuition. You could use source. You could use energy. Those are all synonymous. And I don't necessarily pray, but I'll call it praying. So I'm like praying to whatever this is, like, you got to show me if this is my path. You got to show me if this is my project. And if this is the person I'm supposed to work with, if it's for me, you'll make it happen. If it's not, you'll take it away. And I was like, okay, just trust in that. Just surrender to that part. Yeah. And within a couple of days, I get a phone call. She goes, I can't move forward. I got something else going on. I got to go this way. And I was like, I hear you. Yeah. I hear you. And so for me, it's been developing that, like, okay, getting the signs, getting the feelings, and tapping into that and just saying, hey, listen, if this is for me, you'll make it come together. If it's not, take it away.
And being okay with that.
And being okay with it.
Yeah.
Totally. So I'll do this in relationships. And I just started to do this not very long ago. But there's a handful of relationships that I have where I'm kind of like, I don't know where these are going to go. I don't know if they're serving me right now. And I'm not even going to figure it out. I'm just like, okay, God, universe, whatever. If this relationship is for me, you bring the opportunities for these, whatever's happening to like melt away and that relationship comes back together. Or if it's not serving me, you'll take it away.
Yeah.
And it's interesting for me when I surrender to that and then I see it happening, I'm like, oh, okay, I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you.
I think it's easier too. Susie is on and she's saying usually if you have that many obstacles in something, it's not meant to be.
It's not your path.
Yeah, it's not the path. And I think in your live yesterday with Yari, she was saying like we'll always have course correction. And I think a lot of that is course correction. Like it's really universe, God telling us like go this way, but we fight against it because we want control, right? I think that's the other thing with surrender is control. Like we don't want to give up control. And that's the hardest part. But just like you're saying, like being able to like just surrender and say, you show me the way and I'm willing to go with whether it's people or things or, you know, a job or whatever it is. It's for me, I found it to be a huge relief. Like that I can kind of just say hands off, show me what to do and I'll take the next step. It relieves a ton of like anxiety and stress because it's like, I don't have to stress on if this person is supposed to be in my life anymore. Because with people, I think it's hard, especially if like the relationship has been there for a really long time or, you know, even if it could be familial, like if it's a family member or something like that, you feel guilty, like kind of cutting ties with them or distancing yourself if it's just not healthy or not, you know, for the greater good of your life and your purpose. Like, I think that's where a lot of people get stuck is like in that guilt. But if you have that, like you're saying, like, show me the direction, what I'm supposed to do in this relationship with this person. And it's super clear. Then it's like hands off, like, hey, that's not me. This is not what I'm supposed to do. You're not supposed to be in my life. And then be at peace with that, you know?
Well, control is an illusion.
Yeah.
Like we totally have control over a lot of stuff when in actuality, the stuff that we actually have control over, it's such a small percentage. Like we pretend that we have control over more than we do. And so you just let that go. And like the best, let me just teach you like the best words ever to use or word ever. This is what I use. Oh my God. So I remember this happening and I was like, that's it. Okay. So a friend of mine, this was one of the relationships that I was like, I don't know if this is serving me. Okay, God, like if this is for me, you figure out how to bring this back together. If it's not, you take it away. And then a series of events happened and I was like, okay, I hear you. This relationship is starting to distance. Who knows where it's going to go from there? And I remember getting a message from this person and it was a long drawn out message. And usually my go-to is like, let me either justify or let me fix it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I remember reading it and if I screenshotted it to you, it was at least 3 screenshots. It was like a long message. And I sat with it for a second. I was like, okay, Paige, what are you going to do with this? Yeah. And my answer was, okay. Like that was it. This whole thing. And I said, okay.
Yeah. That's it.
It's going to it's going to be what it's going to be. I'm not fighting this anymore. I'm not fixing it anymore. It is just I'm surrendering to whatever it is.
Yeah. Because there's no point. I mean, if you went back with the long drawn thing and then what would happen next? Then it would be another, it's like, yeah, I had something similar like that happen. I actually haven't responded back. It was this long drawn out thing. And it was actually about one of these faith talks. Someone messaged me and it was a long thing. And I was like, so tempted to fire back and justify exactly what you're saying, like what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. And there's no harm in any of it at all. It's all coming from a place of love from everyone. But then I'm like, why? Like, why would I even spend my energy on this person who clearly has a vision for themselves and their life, and this isn't part of it, and that's okay. So I just left alone. I never replied. I was gonna just say okay is a really good.
Okay.
Like,
whenever I say it, I'm like,
yeah.
That's the answer. Okay. I hear you. Okay.
Yeah.
People just want to be heard.
I love that.
I think this whole like surrender path really started for me. So I know you shared how we had connected previously. We were both in separate companies and marketing grind, and there was a point in that my very last company where I felt like my path was changing, but I didn't know where that was going to go. I wasn't like really sure. And so I remember surrendering that one. And that's not it took me a long time to get to a place to surrender. Yeah. Right? It takes a long time for me to get there. But finally I get there and I'm like, hey, if I'm not supposed to be here, you show me that I'm not. And if I am, then you bring me what I need. Like, it's like almost the ultimatum with spirit. Yeah. Like, totally. One way or the other, you bring it. Okay. Yeah. And then, very shortly after that, two people that I was working really closely with, they decided to move on. And I was like, okay. And so I always share with people, if you're ever in that space, don't rush that space, because usually I'm the person that like, what next? What next? Yes. Like, where do I got to go? What do I need to fix this? I need to like whatever.
I did that. We are like the same person. Right?
Yeah.
The same exact thing happened with me. Yeah. And I feel because I'm very all in, like all or nothing. Like I don't like the gray area, right? It needs to be like black or white, cut or dry. And when the gray area is there, like I want to move everything to like one way or the other. And I did that when it's interesting because, and I'm sorry to interrupt you real quick, but part of, for me, moving off into whatever I do, I don't even know what I want to call it, but whatever I do now.
I don't know what I do either.
But in the light worker space, I guess, out of network marketing, and I had successful business there, very similar to you. And it was hard for me to let it go. But instantly, when I got that very clear answer from God saying, this is what you need to do, it was very clear. Like there's no denying it. It was super, super clear. But instantly, and so it's just to backtrack a little bit, how you came into a part of that is you hosted Andy in your group, right? Andy Love. And that whole series that she did, Aligned as the New Hustle, that was what was the turning point for me. I mean, that was where God opened everything. And I was like, holy shit, like this is what I'm living, and I can't live like this anymore. And that's where it kind of, everything started turning. So I signed up with her. And so she's my business coach, right? Because through that whole series, so that's what I'm saying. You stepping out into surrendering and faith really catapulted that for me. And it was in that instantly I'm like, okay, this is what I'm doing now. And so I just need to quit everything and lose all of that income and forget all of it now? And like, I sent her this like long ass like message, like, do I quit everything? Do I need, cause everything wanted to be black and white for me. But just what you're saying, like I kind of she never replied back to me. She kind of okayed me. Okay. and like, thank God she didn't, because I really just needed to marinate in all of that and kind of let it work itself out instead of me forcing it out of the gray area into one way or the other. And it's totally worked out that way. It's crazy.
I'm a total pusher.
Yeah.
Like, I gotta figure it out. I gotta fix it. I gotta do all the things, like make it work. And I've just been learning that like, that's not always the best solution. No. Sometimes the best solution is for you to chill out, and like sometimes the best solution, I know nobody ever wants to say this, but sometimes the best solution is for you to quit. And like that's for me. Had I never quit what I was doing before, this new project that I really am in love with would have never come my way. Like I never would have had that space for it to evolve. And I think that was like the real big lesson for me, is that I was so busy trying to make everything work that I missed out on maybe my true calling, my true path, and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, I just remember that period being very different this last go around, of me telling myself, you know what, let's do things a little bit different. Instead of trying to like figure it all out, just chill and just wait. And I think that's the hardest part. I remember I waited like 3 months even to figure out if I needed to, what I needed to do, like as far as if I needed to stay with what I was doing or not. And it was like that time period of like, okay, and all of these, you know, things were happening, and I was like, okay, that was more confirmation I needed to go a different way. And then after about 3 months, I decided, okay, that's not my path. Okay, I'm cool with that now. But I didn't even know where I was going to go. So it was like another 4 or 5 months of just this complete surrender of, I remember I would always like pray or whatever you want to call it to spirit, like, bring me what I need to do next. Like, I'm not going to try to figure it out, because I usually try to figure it out, right? And like, bring me what I need to do next. Like, bring it. And then eventually I got this idea, and then it turned into what we now have as my so-called hippie tribe. And it's been a lot of fun. You know, we got close to a couple thousand people in there that we all kind of vibe out on cool stuff.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to, I mean, so for me, just watching you come into this and like seeing you from like before, and even in the part where I knew, because we were doing the book club thing before that, and we had chatted a little bit about business and like where we were at in our individual businesses and stuff. And so I knew, like, I could already feel that from you, like that it was lessening, that you weren't doing as much in it. So seeing that whole thing, and then the second you released that in that like 5-month period of time where you were like, I don't know what to do next, but whatever. And then my so-called hippie tribe started. I mean, it like literally blew up instantly. And it's been like the fastest growing group I've seen with real like traction, right? It's not like you just have a bunch of people in there and, you know, people get thrown into a group or whatever. It's so active, and it has so much like truly the vibe in there is like so love filled and like giving and full of good people. Was that something that you were like, was like very clear, like a hit home, like to see it happen, like the miracles and the magic and all that stuff happened so quickly because you were like hands off, like spirit, just guide me, you show me what to do. And like all this like amazingness starts pouring out.
Yeah. You know, what's funny is that when I think of the group, it's like, I really don't feel like it's mine. It's like the weirdest thing. I remember when this idea came, and I worked with Andy at the very beginning. She had like a May mastermind miracle. I don't know what it was called. I can't remember anything, but it was like a year, almost May of last year. And I remember going through the process of putting together my so-called hippie tribe, and it didn't feel like it was mine. It was almost like this idea came, and it was more divinely inspired. And I really felt like I was just more the conduit for it. And so I think it has a different energy behind it. And even today, it's like, I can't really take credit for it. I'm like, I don't know. It's like, I just brought it. And just put all this stuff into, you know, work. And then there's this energy that comes through it. And it's surrendering to that. It's like, okay, well, you want me to do this? Okay. All right, I'll do it. I was also going to say, you know, I was thinking back to our time when we did a book club before. In just that period of time, I had I don't know if this makes any sense, but I had so many parameters how things had to show up, right? So book club, I was like, this is only worth my time if blah, 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 blah. And so depending how other people acted or showed up in whatever I was doing, not just book club, but like my whole life, really, I just had so many parameters. And so now I just work from a different space where I don't have parameters. Like I surrender all of my thoughts and my opinions and my feelings around a lot of things. And I just do them because I really enjoy doing them. And then, I don't know, things work. And I get blessed in really weird areas. And so, you know, like with my so-called hippie tribe, I don't really have any like parameters around it. I'm like, and it's a constant like struggle, because a lot of times I think to myself, oh, I need to monetize it, or I need to do this to grow it. And I just tell myself, no, surrender that. That's not your responsibility. If it's meant to monetize, spirit will bring you the opportunities to monetize it. You do it because you love it. And it's so funny just being in that vibration of like, I do the things that I do, whether it's taking Gabby Bernstein's Spirit Junkie or doing my so-called hippie tribe or whatever, just being in that vibration. Like other parts of my life, I've seen been blessed, or whatever you call that. Like, you know, I have a real estate, some work I do in real estate on the side, and I just started it last year, and like that portion, which I didn't put any effort on it, that portion really grew, and I was like, that's so weird. And it's like, just because you're in that vibration of like doing the things because you love them and just surrendering to that and not putting all of these parameters on stuff. It's like, I don't know, there's an effect that happens.
I think it's the giving cycle, right? Because you just are giving out of a space of love without expectation. Like you're not expecting anything out of it. That's when all of that stuff comes. Seriously, I feel like we're on such a like parallel path, because I'm the same way. I put parameters on everything. And when I really, for me, it's like surrender, release, control. Like a big part of like my mantras daily is I release the outcome. And it's like, no matter what, I don't even care what the outcome is, whatever spirit has already like lined it all out. And so whatever that outcome is, I can't control it either way. I can definitely screw it up, and I don't want to screw it up. So it's like, I'd rather take the next right step. And even if it's just baby steps or something, it feels so much better to be in that space of like, it feels good. And I really wish that people, it took me a long time. I mean, it took me 40 years to get here, to really get in that space. But I think that's what is so important about like you talking about this, because it's like, if we could just teach people or just plant the seed, just give like surrender and in faith and see what happens in just a small area, right? Like if you just start with a nugget and see what happens.
We have so many expectations around stuff. What's funny is earlier today I was on Facebook, and there's a group that I'm in that's mostly business people. And one of the people had posted something about how somebody had reached out to her, wanted to do coffee. And then here she comes up to this coffee date. And then the other person just felt like they were just takers, like take, give me all your advice, look at my website. And she said that she felt after this hour meeting, like this wasn't so much to connect. And I understand that feeling like you're being taken advantage of and frustrated. But she said that, after the hour meeting, she felt very frustrated and just really, the other person just wanted to take. And I remember going through the response, and most people were putting things like, that's why I don't do coffee dates, or telling her how to sell this person. So she has this expectation that she has to get something from it. And I was like, wow, I think the energy in this whole thread is off.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking that it has to be a certain way or there's a certain expectation from the other person, just surrender it and just say, you show up how you want to show up. So there's going to be a portion of your business, well, there should be a portion of your business that is 100% pro bono. You give away a ton of stuff to people. Like you are just a giving person, and you let go of having to see it directly. Like I give to you, so then that means you have to do this. Instead of I just give because that's who I am, and universe will show up and reciprocate. I will be compensated because this is who I am. And that was a hard one for me because my mind is so linear. Like when I was doing Gabby Bernstein's Spirit Junkie, I was like, well, if I'm going to do this one because it's pretty high ticket, that means that I need to apply it to this, and I have to be able to generate this much or it's not worth it, right? And I'm like figuring it all out in my mind. And I was like, my friend Heather's like, no, life does not work like that. I was like, okay, I'm going to surrender my expectations. We're going to let it go. And we're going to just let universe, spirit, whatever, take care of that stuff.
That is so funny. It is, because I'm not even kidding. After you did the thing with her yesterday, I actually messaged her about signing up for her intuition course. Mm-hmm. And I had that same, I'm not even kidding. I emailed her and told her, I'm like, look, I have this event coming up. Is this going to help me in my event? Or is it just going to be like something that's going to be too much time right now? Like, should I even commit to this? But interestingly enough, I feel called to do it. You know what I mean? But here I am. Right. But here I am still trying to put it in this box. It has to make sense. Like, is it going to help me in my event, or is it not? Is it going to be worth the money and the time, or should I wait and do it? You know what I mean? But still, I still feel spirit telling me like, freaking do this thing. But still my human brain is like fighting.
Yeah. No, that's the struggle. It's like being able to like let that part like go. And like, I know I sound like Elsa, but that is like my mantra every day. Let it go, let it go, let it go, and if you're called to do something, that is all the reason you need right there is I'm called to do it.
Yeah.
You're
I
called
think
to it, then you're called
it's interesting because we can be, continuously evolving. We can know these things and still struggle with them, right? Like on a daily, never ends.
oh yeah, because your
So,
brain is so powerful. It
yeah.
like wants to hijack everything else. I tell you.
Let me ask you, just if you were talking to somebody else, like, is there a point that you like, or something specific that you said or did that you started stepping into that like surrender mode? You know what I mean? Like, was there a definitive line or like something specific that you would tell someone or teach someone, or did you just get to a point where you were like, all of this it's not feeling good anymore, so I have to try something different?
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's probably years of trying to fix everything and make it work. And I mean, going back like 10 years ago, I remember just day after day sitting at my kitchen table so frustrated and just like in tears so many times because I felt like I was working so hard, and it almost felt like no matter how hard I worked, no matter how proficient I could be, and I had given things enough time to really see them flourish, and they weren't. And so there was a whole portion of time. I remember that time it really affected like how I saw myself. Right? It triggered and that's probably why this happened. It triggered all my value and worth, all of those things where I had to kind of deal with that. But I just got to a point where like, I don't know, like there's I think it's called a meme. I want to say it wrong, but there's one out there. It says, if you knock on that door and it doesn't answer, it's not your door.
Mm.
And like, I just spent way too many years like sitting at my kitchen table crying because I felt like I know I can be more than this. And not that this conversation is not for you if you just started something and you haven't put in the time yet. So this is not like, oh, it's just not working out and I hit one speed bump and I'm out. This is like, you've been working at something for a while and you know that you've been practicing and you're proficient and you're good and people compliment you and you're like, yeah, I know what I'm doing, but it's not falling into place. There's a reason why it's not falling into place. And instead, now I know it's not about me. And it's not a direct reflection of my worth. And that's probably why I was stuck in that period for so long, because I needed to learn that lesson.
Yes.
Because that's very easy for me to attach that it doesn't work, then there's something wrong. There's something wrong with me, right? And so now I know it's not.
Or
there's
something I'm not doing, right?
I'm not doing. I'm not worthy. I like all of that kind of stuff comes up. Like, what is it? And sometimes it's not that. Sometimes it's not about you not doing the right stuff. Sometimes it's not about you not being worthy, because we're all worthy. That's not your path. And then once I got to that place where I was like, this is just not my path. And I was like, okay. And so now it's a little bit easier for me to wise up to now the little idiosyncrasies that happen and being tied into that intuition place where I go, ooh, this doesn't feel right any longer. And like honoring that when you get those hits of intuition, this doesn't feel right any longer, and being like, okay, show me. Instead of like, I would put the blinders on. Be like, this doesn't feel right. Well, that's okay, because I committed to it. And so now I can like stay with it.
So what if it's not someone like you and I are very like committed, like we want to see a result and the outcome because we work really hard. Like we're very driven in that way, I think. If it's someone who is kind of on the other side, not necessarily by that, but just, I think a lot, like just what you were saying, a lot of people don't quit things when it's clearly not their path anymore, or don't change course. I don't want to, if you don't want to use the word quit, change course, whatever, because other people's influence is telling them, if you just work harder, if you just do this, if you just give it a little more time. And so then they start buying into that. Like, how do you overcome?
Tell you that because they have an agenda. They have something to gain off of it. If their advice is based solely on what they have to gain, it's not true advice. Like, I've been on that side. I know I perpetuated a lot of those. Like, I know not to do this, and I know like how manipulative and fear-based all that stuff is, because I used to do that.
I know. I feel so guilty. That's something I have to deal with. I feel so guilty that I did that to people. But
Right.
that's what I was taught also, right? So I did what I was taught. But it's like I feel so yucky about that. That's still something I need to like come to peace with because I still feel so gross.
Feeling on that part. Yeah.
I just need forgiveness from all the people.
Yeah.
It's so yucky.
That stuff is so it is so effective.
Yeah, it is.
It makes people feel bad, and
Yeah.
nobody wants to feel bad, and so people will move away from pain to go to pleasure. And so when, like, this is a whole nother diatribe on leading people.
Yeah.
But when you use fear and when you use pain to motivate people, it's one of the most highly effective ways to do it. Just because it's effective doesn't mean you should do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're kind of a jerk.
Yeah.
Not like you, because like, no, I'm not saying you as like you, but like me too.
Yeah, no, it is. But it's such a way of the world. And it's easier now that I've stepped out of that role and don't live in that way anymore. And I lived like that for a long time. I mean, for the majority of my life, because just being in business in general, it doesn't have to be tied to like network marketing or, you know, anything like that. Just business and the world in general, I think teaches that. Somebody mentioned it even like we do it to our kids, you know what I mean? And not in a way of like out of a place and like a bad place, but as a motivator, I think parents do it. And so we're already instilling that fear-based mentality into them, which then that takes us further away from the surrender and the faith, right? Like that completely separates us from that. And so we're already teaching our kids. So I mean, it's no wonder why it took me 40 years to get into a surrender faith in faith, you know, life, because for my entire life I was taught and I learned, and it was perpetually like instilled in me to live in that fear-based mentality and, you know, stay the course and work harder and do more and do all the things, even if it's not feeling right or working out the way it should, you know, keep doing it. And I think also that the other like nuance to that is because, and I kind of mentioned it in the caption thing, it's like you will see, when you do work hard, you will see fruit from it, right? Like if you're a hard worker and you do the right things, you will see some fruit. So then it's almost like the dangle carrot, like it doesn't feel good. It's not feeling good. You know, intuition is telling you like, this isn't the path, but I'm still seeing like something come of it. And so it's like, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's so hard. Such a hard like line, I think.
Yeah, kids will teach you like the ultimate surrender, and it's like a constant battle for me. I know exactly what you're saying about like leading or parenting them with fear. There's this one quote, it says something like, where did we ever get the idea that to help kids act better, we have to make them feel bad? And I remember like looking at my parenting with that, and it's like anytime my child doesn't do what I want them to do, I need them to show up in a certain way or whatever, then how do I respond? How am I leading them? And a lot of times it's, let me make this more painful for you so that you change your behavior so that it matches something that feels good for me.
Right.
Okay? Like,
so good. I'm gonna write that on my chalkboard.
Surrender to, okay, my child just shows up how it shows up. They have bad days, they whatever. And trying to help them through that. This is so hard for me, trying to help them through instead of trying to like make them almost feel bad so that they change their behavior.
Right. So has your surrender in faith in your own personal stuff with like business and that life, has it like, have you started applying it to everything else, like with your kids and your marriage and like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you mentioned friendships, but everything else, I mean.
Yeah, I try with my kids, my little ones too. So she doesn't bring as many challenges as my older one. But I mean, kids are ever evolving and relationships are ever evolving. So that one's a daily thing. And sometimes I'm good at it, and sometimes I really suck at it. Like, probably the reason why I share these messages is because I need them the most.
I know. It's hard. It is. It's hard. I think surrender in general is just, it's hard. But when you do it, that's when you start seeing the goodness and the fruit and the clarity. And it's like, why didn't I do this so long ago? Right? Like, why didn't I think it's like the most overused phrase. But when you really like break it down, and it comes into this, the let go and let God. Like, it's so overused, and like, especially because I grew up in a Christian church and all that. And like, that's just the thing that people say. And I hate it when it's overused in like oh, I'll pray for you. Okay, I'll pray for you. Like, let go and let God. Girl, just let go and let God.
Say back to that
Yeah,
one.
just let go and let God. So, and I'm just like, it's easy to say that, but when you really truly get down to the nitty gritty of it, it's a surrender. If you just would truly surrender, let it go, it will work itself out. It will run the course it's supposed to run. And it's an easier path to walk than the resistant path of like, forcing yourself away from it and trying to drive the bus to a different way. If you, Jesus take the wheel, like all that stuff, literally. I mean, it sounds catchy and it's fun to say, and it's easy to like give it, that advice to people, but it truly is like something that's, when you really live by it, you really see that the peace, and it's just the easier path to walk. And it's crazy. I mean, it's crazy for me because, like I said, growing up in a Christian lifestyle, I struggled with full on surrender. But now that I know and I've seen the fruit of it, it's like, I don't want to do anything else. I don't want to force it anymore because it's hard.
What's funny is that a lot of times we'll look down upon the word surrender, like you're giving up so much. At the same token, it is also what brings you the magic. Like it's like we look down. It's like, as much as we look down upon that word because of the connotation that it can have, like you're giving up yourself, it brings you on like the opposite side that much more magic, or whatever you want to call that, blessings or whatever. It's crazy.
It is so crazy, and it happens quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It's like instantaneous. You can.
Oh, the minute you get out of your way.
Right. Kind of awesome, you guys.
The minute you get out of your way, it happens.
Yeah. Right. Imagine that. Melissa, thanks for popping on. She came on, I jumped a little late, but she is in agreement with all of our talk here. Awesome. So if anybody has questions, please drop them. We are like super open books when it comes to talking like these faith talks. So if you have questions for Paige in any capacity of how she stepped into that or how she continues to do that, do you have a daily practice that you do, like to keep yourself grounded in surrender?
Doing anything daily for me is a challenge. Being consistent is a huge challenge for me. I am a pretty big fan of meditation. And I go to YouTube, and so either I'll have like Reiki meditations that I do that come from the Reiki master that I work with, or I pop over to YouTube and I'm like, what do I want to meditate on? I'll be like, guided meditation for whatever. So that's kind of a big one. Another daily practice for surrender, I don't know, just kind of being mindful in that, and like when those intuition things come, and just learning to trust them.
Yeah.
But that's kind of my daily deal.
It happens. I think if people are mindful, they'll hear it. They'll hear the intuition. They'll get the hits. Like, it's the more you listen to it and acknowledge it and honor it, the easier it is to recognize, I think.
Yeah, for me, I've learned over like the past year and a half, maybe or so. For me, and everybody's different because different people process information differently and stuff like that. For me, it feels different in my body. So when I'm very consumed with Paige and what Paige wants and all of like the forcing and all of that, that's always up in here in my head. Versus when I am trusting in spirit or intuition, that comes for me more from like a heart space. And for me, it's a sense of knowing. It's like, okay, all of a sudden I know this.
Yeah.
I know this to be true. And when I really quiet myself and I turning off this like internal chatter, when I turn that off and I go, okay, what do I know to be true? What am I feeling? What feels, and a lot of it's feeling good. Like, what feels good to me? If things feel good to you, then like, that's a sign. And if they don't feel good, like, that's a sign.
Totally. Like, why force through something that doesn't feel good, right? Like, at the very least, I think if something doesn't feel good and it's something that you're really like questioning, like in a direction to move, like, I think exactly what you said in the beginning, ask for guidance. Like, just stop yourself in the tracks, don't take any more steps, and then literally ask for guidance in what the next right step is, because it's so clearly revealed when we ask. I mean, it's like undeniable, right? Like, if we really want the answer, we're really going to get the answer.
Yeah, no, that's 100% right. If you ask, and
Yeah.
mine is usually, hey, if this serves me, figure out a way to make it happen. And if this doesn't, take it away.
I like it. That's
And
very
like,
easy.
the stuff happens. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
And you know what's so funny is like when we were talking about how I was doing this project with a friend and we were like halfway through, and I remember distinctly feeling, you're worrying about this for no reason. Like, it doesn't matter how much you want to worry about it. If it's meant to be, it will be. And if it's not, it's going to go away. And so I remember stopping in my tracks and going, okay, I don't have to figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay, Spirit, take this away. If it's not for me, keep it if it is.
Yeah.
Like, figure out a way to show me. And like, sure enough, it's like, okay.
I love that. It is. It's like, it's just such a relief, because I think, a lot of other things come from not surrendering, like physical ailments, right? Like stress and anxiety, and like, people get stomach ulcers, and like, I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff can happen to us physically, because where if we just surrender, we're like eliminating a lot of that stress, because it's like, hands off, just show me what the next step is. And I'm okay with whatever the next step is. I'm okay with whatever your outcome is, not whatever my outcome, what I think it should be, right? It's like such a stress reliever. And then that positively affects everything in your life, because I think when you surrender in faith and you start seeing the goodness that comes out of it, that you feel better about it, right? And then so you're able to relate better to other people in, your household and relationships, and how you choose to respond to people on Facebook and all that stuff. It's like the goodness bleeds out from like who you are, versus when you're not feeling good and we're trying to control it. It's like, I'm going to be a nasty bee. I'm like going to be super short with my kids.
Like, you have to like let go of your own agenda.
Yeah.
Which is very hard.
And it changes everything. I mean, it really changes the flow of like your entire life, not just that one little thing that you're asking for guidance on. I think it changes everything. And that's, such a huge part of like healing yourself. And like you said, core wounds that you had, like that's, surrendering all of that, like in general, surrendering to whatever the next step was, started healing your core wounds that you had about yourself, about self, worth and all that stuff. Like,
you know what's really funny that you say that? Since I kind of surrendered all of that, I don't nearly have the amount of things trigger internal wounds like that. I don't have closely the amount of things come into my life that trigger me to like relive.
Right.
Before, when I was pushing my agenda and like I had to have it my way, it seemed like everything triggered that stuff.
Yeah.
Now I'm like looking back and like, I rarely does something come my way where I am triggered with a value or worth type of feeling. And that was like for a very long time, like it seemed like everything triggered my value and worth.
Right.
Probably because I was pushing my agenda the whole time.
Crazy. It's so crazy. Like, I mean, that's what just in that faith surrender, it really changes everything. And I really think that that's where I'm seeing like the healing and stuff come from. Like, all we have to do is just choose differently, right? Like, choose differently than we have before.
Yeah. It's so funny. It's so simple. I mean, it's hard to put into practice, but it's a simple concept.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel you.
Well, thank you for sharing. You guys, if you have questions, again, drop them. If you're watching the replay, thank you. If you've been on with us the whole time, thanks for sticking with us. So I'm asking all my guests if they have a favorite quote or mantra or affirmation or anything to share that has helped you or that just you use on a regular that might be of service to anybody?
What's so funny is I know you messaged me like last night, basically that question, and I'm like, I don't know. What I would say, like I say to myself the most, is either breathe, breathe, breathe.
Yeah.
I know it sounds so cliche because it's so like Disney, but it's like let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go. Let it go. Like
it's true.
My ears are ringing. I hear you. Okay. So I have this thing, like my ears sometimes ring out of nowhere. For me, it's a confirmation from spirit. But yeah, mine is let it go. It's like not yours. Let it go. So
that's it. That was your confirmation. I love it. Well, that's it, and it fits right in to surrender. You gotta just let it go. Let it go and surrender. Well, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being a light in my life. You are a huge part of my journey, and I'm so grateful for you. I'm grateful that you share what you have and your gifts and everything else. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Ditto. Exactly.
And so Monday we have another Faith Talks guest. I don't remember who's coming on, but I think we end the series on Wednesday. So it's just been awesome. I'm grateful that you've taken part of this, and have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you guys later. Bye.